I just got done watching Superman for the second time. I posted an initial review when I first watched the movie, and I gave it a mixed review. There were things I liked about it, there were things I didn't care so much about it. By and large, I thought it was pretty good, but now that I've seen it a second time, my opinions have been reinforced, and I like the movie a lot more on the second viewing. There's still one thing in particular that really kind of irks me, but overall, I enjoyed the movie quite a bit, and I want to dive into full spoilers here. On my last review, I tried to avoid going into spoilers. Here, I'm going to talk about specific plot points. So stick around and let's have a Superman discussion. I don't know if anyone remembers this, but a while ago there was a bit of a controversy about some leaked script information, where a whole bunch of monkeys were typing on keyboards to make Superman look bad. Hashtag super. Well, that turned out to be a real thing. And you know what? It's fine. The monkeys were like 1 second of the movie, and it actually worked really well. It critiques social media. And sentient monkeys, by the way, sentient primates have been a really big part of DC Comics for a really long time. So that's actually fairly comic book accurate. Lex Luthor doing mad scientist crap, that's also very comic book accurate. So I don't have any problem with that whatsoever. I thought it was interesting that they played up on the social media aspect because in the real world, people get canceled for things. Somebody that's super popular, everybody loves, at the drop of a hat, all of a sudden everybody hates that same person that they loved 5 seconds ago. And that is something that's very accurate to the way human beings are in modern society. So I actually really like that aspect, and it created drama, it created some tension. Superman felt bad. We felt bad for Superman because we knew he was actually good the whole time. So I think that really worked in ginning up drama. Let's talk about all the side characters here for a minute. Perry White chomping on his cigar. Fantastic. I love him in the movie. Good casting. Very believable as the boss of the Daily Planet. I thought this Lois Lane was great. She had character. She had depth. She was a journalist first. She was reluctant to be in a relationship. She said to Superman, I told you this wasn't going to work. But watching them connect after an argument was actually well done. The character was very tough and very likable at the same time. Kudos to the casting of Lois Lane. I really liked her. Jimmy Olsen, how do you do Jimmy Olsen? He was kind of a silly character. He was kind of, a young kid, but they kind of made him a grown-up in this movie, but it still had some kind of young kid charisma aspects to him. I liked that he had this super hot girl that was after him, and he's kind of, just because she's kind of annoying. So he looks for more than just looks. Calling her mutant toes is kind of funny. I'm glad they didn't actually show her toes. And I actually really like that this comic relief sort of character, somebody who's posing with selfies throughout the movie, actually turns out to be an integral part of the story. It wasn't just a joke. She's actually really important to the movie. She helps bring down Lex Luthor. She helps save the day. And Jimmy Olsen reluctantly going along with a relationship with her, I thought was rather amusing. I like these aspects of the movie. Metamorpho. I didn't know anything about this character. I've been reading DC Comics my whole life, and I think I've seen the character here and there, but I didn't really know much about him. When I saw, I think there's a box of toys that had that character in it, I'm like, who the crap is this? But his character had a lot of emotional impact. Watching Superman save the baby, watching him save Metamorpho's baby, was great drama, and it was very Superman-y. He's trying to fight bad guys while holding a baby in one hand. And people were talking about this Superman losing every battle that he's in. I don't think that's fair. For one, he's fighting bad guys while away from the yellow sun, while holding a baby, trying not to get the baby killed. So he's saving the baby while fighting all of these crazies, and it's awesome. As far as him losing the battle in the beginning, he was actually fighting a clone of himself. Ultraman in this movie is a clone of Superman. Lex Luthor makes a comment that he's actually physically stronger than Superman. So it makes sense that he would have lost that fight, because not only is he fighting a foe that's his physical equal, he's fighting a foe that has been programmed by Lex Luthor to obey commands, and Lex Luthor's been studying Superman's fighting style for a really long time. Just like a real-world boxing match where you might watch how the other fighters actually can anticipate their moves, Lex Luthor does that with Superman, which I think is brilliant. And he's telling him exactly what combos and what not to do. 1A, 47G, or whatever it is. It's just something that was more evident in the second viewing and made more sense in the second viewing, and I really appreciated that. And Superman is not a weakling in this movie. He fights a kaiju monster, but at the same time, he's just not trying to kill it. He could have just ripped the thing's head off if he wanted to, but he didn't. He was trying to save its life and the lives of the people around all at the same time. He even stopped to save a squirrel. If he's concerned with the life of a little squirrel, it makes sense that he wouldn't want this monster to die, at least not needlessly. I mean, he's holding the whole damn monster up with his bare hands while it's stomping on the ground so that he can save a puppy. I mean, how Superman is that? And the end battle where he's fighting Ultraman, again, somebody physically as strong as him. I don't think saying this Superman is weak is at all fair. He might not be quite as powerful as other versions of Superman, but he's pretty f***ing powerful. Lex Luthor in this movie is excellent. This is my favorite Lex Luthor. This Lex Luthor is maniacal. This Lex Luthor schemes and plots. This Lex Luthor is brilliant and presented as so. He's a mad scientist, he's green with envy, he's greedy, he wants to destroy Superman. He doesn't see himself as the villain. He sees himself as somebody who has to destroy Superman at all costs because he's jealous of Superman, and he thinks that if I were Superman, I'd want to take over the world, so he assumes Superman would be that way as well, even though he's not. Very well done. I appreciated all of that. Lex Luthor was excellent in this movie. Mr. Terrific. I never read a Mr. Terrific comic. I was aware of its existence. I remember when the New 52 came out, that was one of the characters, but it was kind of short-lived. I think I saw him on a CW show once, but really don't know anything about Mr. Terrific. I want more Mr. Terrific now. This was a fantastic character. You don't get a lot of character development. He's just there. That's another thing I appreciated about this movie. We don't get bullshit origin stories. Origin stories are played out, I think. We don't really need them. I like that this movie jumped right in with both feet into the superhero universe. Grab any random comic book and it's probably the middle of a story that's been going on for decades. You kind of got to get caught up pretty quickly. And this movie starts off by giving you some text on the screen. Some people compare it to the Star Wars crawl, but really it reminded me of the little boxes you see at the beginning of a comic book. Gives you just enough information to catch you up as to what's going on, and then throws you right into the action, and I thought that was great. That's very comic booky. I like the color palette of this movie. Everything is bright and colorful and vibrant, much, much more so than anything in the Snyderverse, and I love that contrast. Don't get me wrong, I actually really like Man of Steel. I've defended that movie. But this is more what I like in a Superman movie. This is all illustrated in one of my favorite parts of the movie, and that's where Green Lantern and Mr. Terrific are having a battle in the background as Superman and Lois are having a serious conversation. One of the earliest, if not the earliest, image of the new Superman was a picture of Superman putting on his boot with some crazy went outside the window. In this movie, we see the context of that, where Green Lantern is whacking some alien imp thing with a green baseball bat, and Superman and Lois are just not concerned at all. She makes one little comment about if he's going to go help them, and he's like, nah, they've got it. They live in a world where superhero battles are the norm, so seeing this crazy shit out the window is just not at all unusual, and they're just carrying out a casual conversation while something absolutely ridiculous goes on in the background. I thought that was amazing. That was terrific. That was something that establishes what kind of universe this is for you. This is a universe where superheroes exist, where superheroes do superhero stuff all the time, and it's normal. Yes, we need them. They're heroes. They do things regular people can't do, but this is a world where this thing exists, and they show it existing. I think that's great. In a lot of superhero movies, it's like, in the Wonder Woman movie, why isn't Superman coming to help? Oh, this is a Superman movie. Why isn't Batman coming to help? Don't these characters exist in this world? Well, in this context, it makes sense. They're all doing their own thing. Just because I live in a world where insurance salesmen exist doesn't mean every other insurance salesman is going to be there at the same time if there's an insurance thing going on. It's like, let them have it. That's work. That's what they do. This version of Superman, I really like. I didn't think I was going to like it as much as I ended up liking it. I wanted a beefier, stronger, broad-shouldered, muscular Superman. I wanted Henry Cavill. I wanted the big, broad-shouldered guy smashing things. This Superman looked like a normal dude, except for that he was wearing a Superman outfit. Yes, he's physically strong, he's tall, And I understand that it's his Kryptonian DNA that makes him strong, not his physical size. But the dude was drawn as a big muscular dude in the comic books. I kind of wanted that, but I like this because he's not as physically imposing, which makes him seem more relatable. It makes him seem more like a person you would want to know, a person you would instinctively like if you knew him. And I think that makes it all the more painful when the people flip on Superman, when Lex Luthor does that big reveal that they found the message from his parents, where his Kryptonian parents had other ideas than what Superman actually had. When people flipped on him like that, you really felt bad for the guy because he's instantly relatable. He's not egotistical. He's a real person with real feelings who interacts with people. He has friends. He has colleagues. He has a romantic interest. He's living his life. He just happens to be Superman. I've heard people describe him as sort of boyish. I don't really think that's fair either. He's a grown man with a job. He's just a laid-back, likable guy who happens to have ridiculously powerful abilities. And in the movie, he learns how to use them better. In this movie, he grows as a character, where he gives his little impassioned speech. No, he's not monologuing at the end, but he does give a little reaction to Lex Luthor saying, "Come on, dude, I'm human. I have feelings. I'm a real guy. Yes, I have powers, but I wake up in the morning and try to make the best decisions I can," and that's his real superpower. And I think that's excellent. The music. In my previous video, I criticized the score. Watching the movie a second time, it's grown on me quite a bit. I know it's not the John Williams theme, at least not in its entirety. Wasn't quite sure about bringing in songs like punk rocker, Iggy Pop, and all that stuff. But it works more on a rewatch. It really makes the universe feel more like a real place because in the real world, there's rock and roll and there's stuff on the radio. There's conversations in the movie about, "I'm not punk rock," or "You're not real punk rock." It's kind of an expression of Superman's character. Lois Lane likes punk rock music. She makes fun of him for liking the Mighty Crabjoys, which I think is a funny little bit in the movie. So to have some contemporary music, so to have some pop music, some punk music, I'm fine with that. And the score works during the action sequences. I love when Mr. Terrific is fighting all those guys on the beach. Excellent. The music that Lois Lane is listening to while that's going on, that is very James Gunny. James Gunn definitely does have a style. Some people criticize the style. Some people think that he's better in big ensemble things like Guardians of the Galaxy. It's just kind of weird that people that love those movies are critical when those movies kind of look a little bit like this movie. Superman is a very different character, and I understand the concern here, and I would like to see other directors get a crack at directing future Superman projects. I don't think James Gunn should do every one, but I like that he did the introduction to it, and yes, it had his style, because that's his style. You knew that going in, and I think it works here. A different director would have had a different style. If Guy Ritchie had done this movie, we would have gotten a very different movie, and that's fine. James Gunn's a guy who loves comic book characters, and he made a comic book movie. He put a little humor in it because that's what he likes in a movie. It's up to us whether we like watching it or not, and I did like watching it. So again, on rewatch, I liked most of this movie much better the second time, and I think I'm going to grow to like it as one of my favorite movies. But there's aspects I did not like. Early in the movie, we get the conversation between Lois Lane and Clark Kent during that interview. That interview sequence is crap, and I don't like it. It's the only part of the movie I actively dislike. And it's not because Lois Lane was crabby and mean to Superman. It's unlikable because it does all of the explanation through dry exposition, explaining things that happened before through dry, boring dialogue. Now they try to zazz it up by having some conflict, some disagreements, Superman raising his voice, "People were going to die," but really at the end, it's just a long exposition scene, and it could have been, there are countless other ways to have given us that information. If you had to do it, shorten it up. Everything in the trailer was pretty much all you need to know. They didn't need to stretch it out for, it's like 7 minutes or something. I didn't time it, but it felt like forever. And it contrasts with the rest of the movie where the color palette is all bright and colorful. Superman's red and blues, the colors pop. Lois Lane's apartment was drab, dimly lit, and hard to watch. It was like 5 minutes of a Snyder movie stuffed into a James Gunn movie. It just didn't fit with the rest of the film. Also, I really didn't like the idea that Superman's biological parents had nefarious purposes when they sent Kal-El to Earth. Didn't like that at all. I don't like the idea that Superman's parents sent him to Earth to rule the Earth and to have a harem to spread his DNA. just seemed to figure out a place for their character, and I didn't like it. However, I'm going to let it play out because they could do something with that in future movies. There might be a plan that I'm not aware of. So I'm going to table my dislike for that temporarily to see what they do with it later on. We might get more information when we watch the Supergirl movie that might resolve some of that. So I'm going to table my dislike of that for now. But I do like the contrast between Kal-El's Kryptonian parents, who had one idea for him, and his human parents, which had a completely different idea. And that contrast, dramatically speaking, works very well. I love this version of the Kents. They seem much more like real people. They have quirky personalities. The mother doesn't understand how cell phones work. That's pretty amusing. The dad is just the slow-moving guy with a big heart. He talks with a slow cadence. He really feels like an actual person from Kansas. And he just loves his son like crazy, and it comes through in that man's performance so well. And Clark Kent obviously got his good nature and his love of life from these two, and it shows. I wish we would have seen more of them. I thought that was great. And thank you, James Gunn, for having Superman's human dad still be alive. It's so much better with Superman's parents alive. I know that in some versions he's alive, some versions he's dead. I get that. Maybe he'll kick the bucket in future movies. I don't know. But I like that Superman still has both of his parents in this movie. I think that's a really nice, warm touch. And that wrapped up in the ending of the movie where he's sitting in the Fortress of Solitude and the robots are playing home videos for him. Very emotional sequence. I felt like I was going to cry. I held it back because I'm a tough guy or something. But I could have let a tear slip. Aside from the Kryptonian parents bit, and aside from that way too long interview with Clark Kent, Superman, the rest of the movie shines. I think it's much better on a second viewing because you catch a lot of things that you missed the first time, or things become more clear. Even if you understood them the first time, they're reinforced on a second watching. So I highly recommend this movie. Much better than I thought it was going to be on a second watch. Liked it on the first watch, loved it on the second watch. Let me know in the comments what you think. I look forward to hearing from you. Eric Wilford Watson signing out.